I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, more travelers from the U.S. stretching their vacation dollars in Mexico. The bargain hunters finding deals ahead of Dia de los Muertos.
Charger fans finally get the chance to talk to the NFL at tonight's town hall meeting. I'm Peggy Pico with what to expect. Will the Chargers stay or go? And the number of sex trafficking victims in San Diego County could fill the Viejas Arena. What a new report says about who's involved and the hundreds of millions of dollars being made illegally.
Benefits for butterflies, the unexpected source boosting the monarch population in California. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. California utility regulators were in San Diego, hearing from folks with a stake in the state's growing solar industry. At issue, the system that allows owners of rooftop solar to sell electricity back to utilities. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has more.
The California Public Utilities Commission gathered people here in the City Council chambers, as you can see, to hear about a couple of issues. One of them is net metering. That's the ability for people who have solar panels on their roofs to sell that electricity back to the utility. Now, there is an issue with net metering. Only 5% of the utility's power generated in the region can come from distributed generation like solar panels. There is a cap, and that cap might be reached as early as next summer. But before that happens is the second issue that the CPUC is here to hear about. It involves changing the rules. By December, regulators will have to decide what the rules for solar will look like moving forward. It may mean the end of net metering, it may mean continuation in some shape or form, and it may mean something completely different. We won't know about that until December. CPUC officials are here to find out what the region has to say.
Eric Anderson reporting today's meeting was informational. Regulators should decide on the new rules by the end of the year. San Diego State researchers were scheduled this month to present their initial findings in a study on racial profiling by San Diego police, but KPBS reporter Megan Burke says Councilwoman Marty Emerald has delayed it.
Emerald had asked for the study in February in response to public scrutiny of the San Diego Police Department. The decision to delay the report was made in private and discussed only in a non-agenda public comment at Wednesday's Public Safety Committee meeting. An ACLU attorney urged Emerald to reconsider her decision and said it contradicts earlier rhetoric promising transparency. Emerald said the report isn't ready yet and only a third of the way done. She wants the public to see a comprehensive analysis, but the plan has always been to release the findings as they become available. The researchers told KPBS in June, shortly after the city approved the plan, that the study would come out in 3 phases. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
San Diego police are investigating another officer-involved shooting that left a man dead. It's the second one in San Diego in about a week. A Harbor police officer was also injured last night. It started with a fight by the Holiday Inn there. Police say the suspect tried to grab an officer's gun. He fired back when he says he feared for his safety. It may be a Hail Mary for San Diego fans. They may hear their case to keep the Chargers tonight. At an NFL meeting, the team wants to move to a new home in the LA market. Peggy Pico says it's a chance for fans to sound off.
The question has lingered for some time, and many San Diegans are demanding an answer. Will the Chargers stay or move north to Carson? The Bolts are one of 3 teams asking the NFL for relocation to the Los Angeles area. And tonight, the NFL is in San Diego to find out more about the Chargers' request to move. Joining me with further insight is Jay Paris, sports columnist at Mighty 1090 Radio, and Professor Jim Lackritz, founder of SDSU's Sports Business MBA program. And Jay, if you could briefly just recap where the Chargers want to move for us and why.
Well, they've been saying they want to stay in San Diego, but not too many people believe them. 14 years they've been trying to get a stadium. They're saying they're not getting any traction. LA is part of their market, part of their fan base. They can't let other teams go into LA without themselves going up there. They want to go to Carson with the Raiders, so they say.
All right, and Jim, tonight's meeting is an opportunity for Charger fans to tell the NFL why the team should stay in San Diego. How much of an impact do you think that'll have on the NFL's decision?
I believe minimal, if anything at all. I think this is part of a kind of a dog and pony show by the NFL to make sure that they've dotted the I's and crossed the T's and followed appropriate procedures in this relocation process.
Jay's nodding his head. Why do you think it'll have any kind of impact? Do they want to hear from the fans?
I don't think the little old lady crying from Lemon Grove in her Charger jersey is going to sway these billionaires too much. I mean, this is going to be a money decision, a business decision. It always is with the NFL. They will follow the biggest pile of money, regardless of how many heartbreaking stories are going to hear tonight.
So, Jim, let's talk about this. There's been so much effort to build and develop a new stadium plan here. It seems a little rushed. That's the way it's been described. It's been loosely slapped together as another way it's been described by city leaders. Was there a better way to go about this?
Not with the time frame that they had. There was a better way if the NFL could have given them another year on top of what they initially had said. But there was a self-imposed deadline which said, get your act together and give us a stadium by September, whatever the date was, and there wasn't a lot of choice or alternatives available.
What kind of criteria is the NFL looking at as far as whether to keep the Chargers here or to move them up to LA?
Basically, the bottom line for the NFL is which city gives the NFL the best opportunity to market and to make money and to build its brand. And so what does San Diego contribute to that equation, and what does Los Angeles contribute to that equation?
Again, Jay's nodding. Do you think it's all about money?
Oh, absolutely. When the commissioner came in, Roger Goodell, he talked about growing the pie. And that was when it was a $9 billion business, and now it's heading toward $15 billion. So you have the second largest market in the United States, all those TV sets, all those eyeballs. They are love to get in there. But make no mistake, without LA having a team, the NFL has done just fine by leveraging other cities to give that government money to keep those teams in those cities.
Jay, do you think that the fans, if the Chargers stay, will forgive them for this little wandering eye up to LA?
I don't think so. I mean, there'll be a small part that go up there, but there's such a rivalry between San Diego and Los Angeles, and if they went anywhere else, maybe those fans would stick. And you add on top of that, they're joining forces with the Raiders. I mean, that's Hatfield and the McCoys making peace.
So if they go up to L.A., but Jim, what do you think about if they stay? Do you think that, oh, all is forgiven, you're here, we got what we wanted?
I think if they stay, we'll go through the kiss and make up phase. And the bottom line is if the Chargers can play better than they played last Sunday, then all of a sudden people will be jumping back on the bandwagon and they'll be thrilled that they stayed.
Now, I'll ask both of you this. I'll start with you, Jim. Do you think, when do you think the NFL will make their decision?
I see the decision coming sometime probably right after the Super Bowl, maybe in February or March or something like that, because they want to give, if there's going to be a relocation, they want to give the owner enough time to put the wheels in process and getting ready for the 2016 season.
Is that about the timeline?
Yeah, early next year, I would think. Okay. Again, they got to get the marketing machine revved up in LA. I mean, it's a big market, but you still got to market it, and it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out.
Any bets on if they're staying or going?
I think they go, and I think they join forces with the Rams, and I think they're playing in Inglewood at some point.
And you?
I think they're staying because I think the Rams are going to Inglewood, and there's only room for one team, one stadium right now.
All right, Jim Lecknitz and Jay Paris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another stamp of approval to make San Diego customers pay more for water. County Taxpayers Association signed off today on a plan raising rates by nearly 10% in January. There's another rate increase in July of 7%. City leaders blame the high cost of importing water and the cost of operating the new desal plant in Carlsbad. City Council is set to hold a public hearing on the matter November 17th. New research paints a stark picture of the effect of the drought on California's Central Valley farmland. NASA and USGS satellite imagery here has mapped the change in the amount of idled land over the past 5 years. It shows more than 1 million acres have been inactive all year. That's more than double the amount in 2011, the last year with average winter rain. The report also shows nearly 2 million acres of farmland were left idle during the summer growing season this year. Now, the state's drought is an unlikely source of help for the struggling monarch butterfly. Associated Press reporter Gillian Flackis has more on the drought-tolerant plant that's actually helping the population.
Come on, here, grab hold of my finger.
The monarch.
a beloved butterfly species whose population has been in decline. Now getting a boost for the most unlikely of reasons: the California drought. Numbers of the majestic orange and black butterflies are in free fall as development chews up fields of milkweed, the only plant where the female monarch will lay her eggs. But in California, drought-tolerant milkweed species are gaining popularity as homeowners rip up lawns and plant desert gardens instead. Outside San Diego, Tom Merriman has seen firsthand how interest in saving water and saving monarchs has surged.
More milkweed, more milkweed, more milkweed.
4 years ago, Merriman didn't even offer milkweed for sale at his nursery. This season, he sold more than 14,000 milkweeds and now runs a nonprofit butterfly atrium on site.
The milkweed's a very adaptable plant. It's co-evolved with the monarch. It's a survivor plant.
Anya Shortridge bought a few milkweeds last year after seeing how they attracted monarchs. Now she spends hours collecting the pinpoint-sized eggs, feeding the caterpillars.
Ooh, he says yummy, fresh milkweed.
She released more than 100 butterflies into the wild this summer alone.
All right, how about you? Are you ready?
But some experts worry that well-meaning drought gardeners could be doing harm by trying to do good. Many are planting non-native or so-called exotic milkweeds because they are more colorful, a choice that could affect the monarch's life cycle and ultimately make them more vulnerable.
You're going to change chemistry, climate, biology. You're changing all their habits.
For now, the monarchs don't seem to be complaining. Milkweed popping up in backyards all over a bone-dry state. Gillian Flackis, Associated Press, San Diego, California.
Our coverage on California's drought continues online. See what others are doing to save water at kpbs.org/drought. Protecting hundreds of thousands of senior citizens from insurance fraud. Insurance experts met with the Congress of California Seniors in Sacramento. They educated them about con artists who wanted to take advantage of them. One of the biggest red flags for seniors are phony calls.
Talk to a trusted relative or friend before you make a decision to buy. Don't let somebody into your house. Often pressure salespeople will try to get into your home and get into your confidence. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true.
The Department of Insurance also has law enforcement officers who investigate crimes by phony agents. No change for California students' math and reading skills. While wide achievement gaps for Black, Hispanic, and low-income students persist, a federal exam called the nation's report card compared student achievement nationwide. The average scores for 4th and 8th graders in California in math and reading were nearly the same this year as in 2013. Their scores were also lower than the nationwide average. Going digital when tracking tuna. San Diego-based Bumblebee Seafoods has a new website allowing customers to find out where their tuna was caught. KPBS editor Tom Fudge has more on what else the website says about the catch.
Buy some Bumblebee tuna at a market and there's a production code on the bottom of the can that you can plug into what they call a catch tracer on the company website. That takes you to another site that shows where the tuna was caught, what the catch method was, where it was canned, and even what was the flag on the fishing vessel. I spoke with the Senior Vice President of Marketing for Bumblebee Seafoods. He said they've always been able to trace their product from catch to plate, but they felt it would be in the consumer's best interest for them to be able to do it as well. Bumblebee, like other companies in the industry, has faced criticism related to overfishing and what's called bycatch, catching and killing other fish and mammals that aren't tuna. So the information you learn from Bumblebee's transparency could make the company look good or bad depending on the catch method and where the tuna comes from. Consumers can rate Bumblebee's fishing methods and locations on other websites like seafoodwatch.org, which is tied to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Tom Fudge, KPBS News.
On to the Fronteras desk. Bargain shopping on the other side of the border. Tourists can save on Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, and other holiday travel to Mexico. Cronkite News reporter Jennifer Soles has more on who is taking advantage of the peso exchange rate.
Mexico remains among the top foreign destinations for Americans. And these days, beaches south of the border are an even bigger bargain.
Just worked out great, and the peso it really worked for us being from the States.
The peso has lost a quarter of its value, and that means travelers with dollars can get more for their money.
We went there to buy a house because the peso is so high compared to the dollar, and so we made an offer on a house there, and we are planning on being there November through May, and we're really excited about it.
Robert Principe is just back from Mazatlan, where he and his wife now own a winter home.
Americans won't save on flights or at big resorts, as those are usually priced in dollars, but they will save at bars, restaurants, and local shops.
I can predict that this kind of situation is going to maintain for several months because the volatility of the economy in different parts of the world.
Prices in Mexico have not gone up to compensate for the peso devaluation as they have in the past. So for now, Mexico remains a great value destination if you have dollars.
Jennifer Souls reporting this project made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They're having second thoughts on a soda tax. Mexican government officials may scale it back. New York Times reports the government wanted consumers there to switch to healthier drinks. This was 2 years ago. It worked. Soda drinking dropped by nearly 6% last year. Mexico's soft drink industry also saw a decline in purchases. Now, Mexican officials may cut the tax in half for drinks with low sugar content. Following up on a new report showing the economic impact of sex trafficking, the victims are as young as 9 years old. Peggy Pico has more on the findings.
For the first time, there are numbers to reveal the extent of human sex trafficking in San Diego County. Estimates between 8,800 and nearly 12,000 people are victims of human sex trafficking each year here. That's just one of the surprising revelations detailed in the study measuring the nature and extent of gang involvement in sex trafficking in San Diego. Joining me with further details, our Chief Deputy DA, Summer Stephan. She leads San Diego's Human Trafficking Task Force, and Amy Carpenter, Assistant Professor of Peace Studies at the University of San Diego and co-author of the study. And Amy, up to 12,000 each year here in San Diego, sex trafficking victims. How'd you come up with that number?
Well, believe it or not, that's actually a conservative estimate. We did three things. First, we looked at the number of people that had been arrested for 11 different crimes. Pimping a minor, pandering a minor, kidnap with intent to prostitute a minor, and others. And we found that 2,645 facilitators of sex trafficking have been arrested since 2007. So that's about 407 per year. But we also knew from interviews with those facilitators that on average they control 4.34 women. Now, the prostituted women we talked to said that number was closer to 8, but we took the lower number. And so that then gives us, if you take 407 times 4.34, that gives us 1,766 potential victims per year. But that is just a fraction of the total population. Other studies of illicit economies have put that fraction at 15 to 20% that authorities come into contact with. So if it's 15% of the total number of victims in the county, that's where we get the 8,000 number, and if it's closer to 20%, that's where we get the higher.
Because these are just people who have had involvement with authorities.
Correct.
This is it could be bigger than that for the people that haven't been involved in that. Well, the report also found that most sex trafficking victims in San Diego County are actually from the U.S. At 85% from the U.S., followed by 12% from Mexico and 8% from other countries. Summer, give us a profile of the typical sex trafficking victim.
Well, it's very consistent with the study. The study is really very accurate. We see a lot of 14 and 15-year-olds, high school girls who are domestic. They're girls right here from the United States. They're citizens. They grew up in San Diego. They are part of our county. And we've seen that at around 70 to 80%, which is similar to what the study shows.
I see. And the average victim you're saying is age 15. How does that happen? Are they recruiting at schools?
Well, the social internet is a big recruitment tool. Girls are invited to parties, girls are on Facebook, they're using their social media all the time. And this is a great tool, criminal tool, that these traffickers are using to lure girls into this exploitation. They're invited to go to a party, they're invited to become somebody's girlfriend, an older guy who shows a romantic interest. And these girls run away from home thinking that this is going to be some pretty woman story. And of course, in 25 years of doing this, I've never seen Richard Gere pull up.
I see. And Amy, this was about gangs. How many gangs are involved in this?
We've identified 110 gangs, sets, cliques, and crews that are involved in some aspect of sex trafficking.
And Sheriff Bill Gore called this report invaluable to San Diego law enforcement. How would you, Amy, like to see this study used?
In 3 ways. I'd like to see it used to influence policy decisions. I'd like to see it used to do more outreach and education in our schools, since we do know that's a recruiting ground. And I'd like to see it used by all of the organizations in San Diego County doing the amazing work of rescuing and providing care for survivors. They're very under-resourced compared to the problem. If we have 10,000 victims on average per year, we have under 30 beds per year. So, you know, this county needs more funding to provide services for the victims of this awful crime.
Anything you want to add to that?
I think that those goals are correct, and the study gives us the real numbers, because this is such a hidden crime and is so underreported. Victims are trapped in shame and isolation. They don't call police. So we do want victims to know that we're here to help them, and we're going to use that study that way.
All right. Well, folks can see the entire the link and read the entire sex trafficking report on our website, kpbs.org. Chief Deputy DA Summer Stephan and Amy Carpenter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
California would like to give doctors financial incentives for treating Medi-Cal patients. The state also wants to take a new approach to providing health care to the homeless. Those are two of the proposals that depend on California being granted a Medicaid waiver renewal from the federal government. More than a third of Californians are enrolled in Medi-Cal. The state says it's still working with the Fed to get the renewal approved. The current waiver expires at the end of this month.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next News Hour. As Congress and the White House get closer to a budget deal, we sit down with Treasury Secretary Jack Lew. Wednesday on the PBS News Hour.
One historic step for humankind. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly may set a new national record tomorrow. It's for the longest single space shot. The previous flight record of nearly 7 months was in 2007. Kelly took his first space walk. He helped clean up the International Space Station. He's set to come back to Earth in March. We first told you about a marathon in the nation's capital uniting military members. San Diego hand cyclist Torrin Gale was also there. As Medill News reporter Sam Fisk explains, his challenge goes beyond finishing the race.
The Marine Corps Marathon unites military members, each with their own goals. For San Diego-based hand cyclist Torrin Gale, the challenge goes beyond finishing the race.
We're used to having our body parts, if you will, having our legs. We grew up that way.
Gale's life changed in 2011 during his third deployment in Afghanistan. He sustained severe injuries after stepping on an IED.
The Marine Corps is near and dear to my heart, and I invested 8 years of my life into it. My service time was cut short, but it's not really cut short because now I can be an advocate for more things.
Gale finds himself in Washington to raise awareness for injured vets. He says completing marathons shows his children that a disability doesn't define them.
Nice job, sir. They can see me do something, they see their mom do something, and we're achieving goals that we set for ourselves, and it shows our kids that you can achieve anything you put your mind to.
Gale has cycled more than 4,000 miles since June.
Yeah, I see you, sister. At the end of the year, when this is all done, I think I've spent over 100 days away from my house. I'm ready to be back in San Diego.
Gale says he hopes the tread on his tires sends a message of motivation.
If you can find within yourself that you've inspired one person in that 26 miles, then I think we're doing our part, and I think that's what I get out of it the most.
Video journalist Connor Morgan helped produce that story. San Diego coast is still under a coastal flood advisory. Beachgoers are being warned of high tides and elevated surf. KPBS reporter Allison St. John shot this video by the Oceanside Strand. It was within 20 minutes of high tide this morning. National Weather Service says beaches from Oceanside to Imperial Beach may see minor tidal overflows and flooding. Well, the mild autumn weather will linger here in San Diego. We're looking at 70s and 80s along the coast over the next few days. 70s and 80s as well for the inland valleys. A little cooler in the mountains, 60s and 70s, and breezy conditions in the desert with temps in the 80s. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a drought challenge swimming upstream. The dry conditions taking its toll on endangered salmon. On Midday Edition, previewing a Day of the Dead concert with a live mariachi performance. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.